Okay. Hi, this is KryptoSeoul Erica. This is episode 34. Actually, we have really special guests here today. This is live, so I think we're pretty nervous. I'm nervous too because we've never tried this camera before. But this is Origin Protocol team here. Say hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. You can look at this screen over here, and this is and I think people can. If people can't hear us, then please let me know by chat, then I will adjust it somehow. And people are going back, and this is a pretty natural environment. But let's introduce the team one by one. Go first, I think. You can just go.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Liu. I'm one of the co-founders of Origin Protocol. And with me, I have Kay.
Hey guys, I'm Kay. Community and Finance and Operations at Origin Protocol. 한국 사람이고요. 저희를 한국말이랑 영어를 섞어서 하겠습니다.
Yes, this is the first time that we actually have a simultaneous translation, Korean and English at the same time. 저도 한국말을 할 거고요. I'll speak in Korean too, go back and forth. So I think it'll go well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, for sure. And there's also other members in the team with us today. So why don't you just introduce yourselves one by one? We actually have many members here right now.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
저 이번에 한국 커뮤니티 매니저 담당하게 된 밀라라고 합니다. 오리진 프로토콜이 한국에서 첫 번째 미드업도 진행을 했고요. 앞으로 좀 더 다양한 이벤트와 업데이트들로 계속 소통할 예정이니까 저희 카카오톡 혹은 텔레그램으로 많은 관심 부탁드리겠습니다.
네. So vibrant.
Coleman here as well.
Coleman. Hi, Coleman. 안녕하세요. You speak Korean too, right?
No. Coleman, head of partnerships at Origin.
Based in San Francisco, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
San Francisco. Awesome. Okay, so the whole team is here, and we can get our usual seats. And so we actually have the entire team with us, and they had a meetup, successful meetup at Hash Lounge, right?
Yeah.
How was the meetup?
Oh, it's fantastic.
It was
Really great to
fantastic.
see the energy and
Yeah.
just to see some new community members come out.
It's a new office. It's like a very
nice.
beautiful, right?
Also, Kay's first time presenting in Korean. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
encourage
Korean.
everyone to check it out.
Yeah, 한국말로 actually did the introduction. We talked about Korea's sharing economy and what our vision is in Korean. 한국말로 했는데요. 꼭 비디오 나중에 체크해주시면.
어떤 팀들이 같이 했죠? What teams did you present with?
Oh, it was Simple Token.
Simple Token.
That was second presentation, second project.
Awesome, great. So for those of you who don't know about the project, it's very new. It just came out of, this, in San Francisco. People were very expecting a lot from the project. They're very excited, actually. So can you just give a brief intro about the project?
Yeah, so at Origin, we are building a platform that will enable many different decentralized marketplaces. So when we're talking about marketplaces, we're talking about these peer-to-peer marketplaces where buyers and sellers can meet on online websites or applications. And today, these marketplaces are actually not peer-to-peer. They're peer to monopolistic company to peer. So like there's an Uber sitting in the middle, or there's like an Airbnb. In tomorrow's world, we imagine that using blockchain technology, that those individual buyers and sellers, various goods and services can actually just meet, find each other, communicate, and then transact. And so we believe there's a future where there will be decentralized car sharing, ride sharing, home sharing, but also the sale of digital goods, home cleaning services, contractor services. There's all these different verticals where individual buyers and sellers can meet and interact. So we're working on our developer platform right now and have a number of partners that are already committed to building on top of us when we launch to the next month.
Wow. So it applies to so many businesses, right?
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea? And do you have a background where you?
Yeah. So Josh and myself, we've both been serial entrepreneurs for a number of years now. So Josh has done 3 venture-backed companies before working with me on a couple businesses and now Origin. I started out my career as a fairly early employee at YouTube as a third product manager there, and then spent a number of years at Google after we were acquired. And then I was VP of product at 2 other startups that were also subsequently acquired. So we have a very traditional Silicon Valley software development, product design background. And in the past few years, Josh and I have both been spending more time at first just investing in cryptocurrencies. But then as the Ethereum network started maturing a little bit, really trying to understand what are these new decentralized technologies. And so we spent some time looking at Ethereum, we spent some time looking at IPFS, which is a distributed file storage system, and started imagining like what would happen if these technologies actually scaled and became widely adopted.
Yeah.
And when we first started, and even today, there's been a lot of talk about how these technologies are still very nascent, still very mature, and Ethereum is not very, very scalable yet. So what can you actually build on top of it? But what we really thought about is like once this technology starts scaling, as we've seen, various parts of the internet scale, whether it's network speeds, internet connectivity, or processing power. If that actually happens, and we actually have a decentralized web, what are the areas of opportunity where there can be the most impact?
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we started thinking about it, it really occurred to us that when you're dealing with networks of many participants, right? So potentially millions of users, and you're dealing with people that right now require someone to act as that that trust broker, that someone to create that trust. If you can remove that, like, what is the impact? And marketplaces are the best example, right? Because right now these marketplace operators, they take anywhere from 10% upwards to sometimes even 30 or 40% in transaction fees, just to kind of create that trust and that like meeting ground. And we can do that all on the blockchain in a decentralized way. And if you can do that, then you can remove the fees, you can create more open and transparent commerce. And you can also give back to the people that are actually building up the platform. So anyways, we got really, really excited about the idea and then started working on it in 2017 and have been pushing forward to get our prototype out. Yeah.
Awesome. So I visited the office in San Francisco. It's amazing. Yeah. How big is the team right now?
Yeah. So full-time, we have 13 people across the various business functions. But the really unique thing about what we're doing right now is we're building this all open source, and we're building this in a very community-driven way.
Yeah.
So even though we only have 13 full-time members, we have probably another dozen people that are part-time, and then we also have a couple dozen people that have just been volunteers. So we've had over 50 engineers actually contribute to our project thus far. If you check out our GitHub, there's like a lot of activity there, and so we started seeing this as a company in the beginning. Now we actually see it as much more of this. It's like a community-driven global movement, right?
Collaborative.
Yeah, and so yes, we're the company that's kind of pushing forward.
Yeah.
But the vision is actually much, much greater, and hopefully the impact is going to be, quite large, and it's going to be because there's so many people that share that vision and are contributing to the work and collaborating with us, versus us just being like a private company doing things in a way normal startup.
Yeah, I think it really matters to have people contributing and feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, okay, what's your role in the, what's your detailed role? What's your background?
Yeah, well, I guess my background is management practice, and I actually funny story is how I met our co-founder Josh was through a networking event at Con conference in Toronto. Yeah. So it was one of the networking events. And I just sort of talked about my genuine interest in the blockchain technology, and I think having been exposed to a lot of financial institutions and clients, like there was no client who did not talk about blockchain.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, what is this technology? I'm not an engineer, but how can I immerse myself into this and learn? And I just kind of talked about it with Josh, and then it just sort of landed me an opportunity in San Francisco.
Awesome.
Yeah. So as a Korean person, 한국 분으로서 이제 한국 커뮤니티 빌딩을 이제 하게 됐고요. 저희 세원시장 같이 앞으로 한국에서 많은 미럽과 또 해커톤 같은 더 많은 이벤트를 플래닝하고 있습니다.
해커톤이 진짜 한국에 없어가지고 없고 있다고 하더라도 되게 좀 저조한 건 사실이거든요. So I think it would be really nice if we can have more hackathons. Because it's very common in San Francisco. I think it's relatively uncommon, but in Korea it's very, less underrated, I think.
So one thing is that we're, as mentioned, we really want to develop a community as well. And I know Korea is known to have very strong developer communities. So we just want to kind of introduce our platform or community to them so that they can, exchange ideas with us. Everything's open source, as Matt has mentioned. So
yeah, amazing. comes from there. 한국말을 하니까 되게 신기하다. Go back and forth.
I think understand 해야 되니까 we'll have to.
We have to paraphrase so that you can understand too.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So let's see whether, if you have more interest in the Korean market. So it's your first official time, the entire team, came over. Of course, you've been here a couple of times, but it's your official, entrance, like, da, we're here, we're gonna really drive this forward. So can you just tell me your first impression about the Korean market and what you need to accomplish, like kind of step forward, to move forward? Because the Korean market is very different from the US market, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess first let me tell you a little bit about some of our objectives here and why we're here. Right?
Yeah.
So we think Korea is a very, very important market for a couple of reasons. Number one, Koreans are just very fast to adopt new technologies, right? And so cryptocurrency is one of those technologies that has seen much higher rates of adoption in Korea than even in the United States or Europe, for example. And so we believe that adoption of cryptocurrencies can serve as the foundational layer that allows us to then get adoption of our platform and of the decentralized marketplaces that other people build on top of our platform. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's actually a couple Korean partners that we've been talking to and have committed to building on top of Origin that actually fit some of the early use cases that we see on platform serving. Two of the early use cases we think that our platform can solve are decentralized home sharing, so like decentralized Airbnb, and also stuff that's more native to crypto already, right? So digital assets, access to exchange accounts for pre-sales, etc. In this particular case, NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And so we signed two early partnerships, one with WeHome on the home sharing side, and the second one with MenApps Plus on the non-fungible token side. And so two early use cases in a market we think that is very relatively advanced in terms of cryptocurrency understanding and technology. And so those two forces combined informed us that we need to be here, right? We need to be on the ground. We need to have folks in Korea that can bring our content to the Korean audience. And so, it's like a focal point for us right now to have a more global audience, especially in Korea.
maybe speaking Korean.
Yeah.
So, 하나씩 외국인은 한국 사람으로서 이제 한국 시장이 여기 저에게 글로벌 블록체인 커뮤니티에게 정말 중요한 게 정말 자랑스러운 것 같아요. 한국이 암호화폐 시장으로 한 3, 4위로 크다고 들었고요. Yeah, and I think 30% of the working population have experienced trading or purchasing.
That's true.
Yeah, it is true. So I think 한국 분께서는 되게 당연한 건데 여기서는 되게 새로운 거 사실 거예요. In Canada, like the staff is over here. For example, I'm from Toronto.
Yes.
So 그래서 한국 사람으로서 되게 자랑스럽고 그리고 이제 there is really no reason for us to not be here, given all the reasons.
Because like the perception that a lot of people feel about the Korean market is that it's very investment focused, but I think like you mentioned a good aspect of the Korean market was it's got FOMO effect. People follow. It's very fast adoption oriented, and people can follow whatever your neighbor's doing, what your friends are doing, like a trend, and if it follows up, then you really can catch up really quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that you can use it in a really good way.
Yeah.
I think that will really.
Absolutely, and I mean, if we look at just like high-speed internet penetration, adoption of mobile applications, social networking, whatever it might be, Korea is always consistently ranked top, if not the top in these categories. And so again, very, very receptive to new technologies. And so when we think about like investment versus application adoption, the two can kind of go hand in hand, right? Because a lot of these platforms that have their own native tokens, there is an investment component to it. But it's also these financial incentives that make it so that every single user is also a small investor, right? Yes. So every single Bitcoin user, every single Ethereum user is also an investor by nature, even if they're using it to like transact in the network. And so when people talk about only investment or only adoption, I think it's the incomplete picture. The real key, and we as an industry need to figure out how to do this, is how do you make that a virtuous cycle, right? How do you have the right crypto economic incentives to drive adoption, to build a stronger network, to attract more people, have those economic incentives, increase in value and be an even further driver for more adoption, and then the whole, flywheel can start turning. Right? And that's when I think the movement, whatever you're building, right, will end up being much more powerful. Many more community members support you.
Yeah, I think the limitation of the current industry is mass adoption, and the challenge for every project, right? So, I mean, I just was curious for every team, how do you plan to challenge and overcome that actually, because it is a big challenge, and if it's not overcome, then it will not. In the end, it will not be successful. So are there specific plans?
The way I see it is that right now, people are oftentimes only talking about those crypto and economic incentives, and they think that alone is going to be enough to have everyone migrate over from a traditional application to a decentralized application. And I actually think that's the wrong assumption. Right? So the next generation of applications need to solve problems in a way that are superior to the current applications, right? So the user experiences need to be on par or better, and value creation needs to be better. Because mainstream users, they don't really care about centralization versus decentralization. They just want to know, is this making my life easier? Is this easy to use? Am I getting something out of it, right? And so I think there's a big gap, especially on the infrastructure and middleware and also the user experience side for these decentralized technologies right now that make most decentralized applications very difficult to use, very intuitive. So we have to get much better at that. Right? Then if you can have everything else equal application with the crypto economic incentives and the tokens and stuff like that, then that's a big accelerant, right? And that can drive faster adoption. But you need to get the basics down too. And so the way we're approaching this problem is very similar to how we're approaching this problem in the traditional startup world, which is, hey, we have to be really good engineers, we have to be really good product designers, we have to think about like the holistic value that we're creating. What does user onboarding look like? How do we measure data and improve the product? How do we actually make it really easy for developers to use and end users to use? A lot of these principles that are very easy to talk about and have been tried and true principles in the traditional startup world, but in practice are hard to actually execute on, right? So how do you actually get something that works? But philosophically, it's the same as before. I think Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and now Web 3.0, the way that successful projects and companies are going to be built are still with those same underlying philosophies, right? Build things really fast, iterate, learn from the data, figure out what user problems are, be very customer-centric, make sure you run a lean, fast operation, and try to figure out how to get that product market fit. Then when you do, then you try to scale. So we're approaching Origin very much the same way that people like the founders of PayPal or YouTube or whatever have in the past. And we're learning a lot too because we have some of those key employees that help start those companies. And so I think that's one differentiating aspect.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you won't really feel that you're using blockchain technology, right?
Yeah.
The users don't have to feel that, right? They just feel how it's usable, how it's convenient.
Yeah.
Really
And in fact, it should almost be invisible.
Exactly. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Anything to add to it? Or?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's like when I start kind of think back when I first joined Origin, and what really interested me joining the team is the concept, the business model of enabling peer-to-peer commerce with intermediaries, so that there's increased financial incentives for everyone. I thought that was a very strong and solid business model that anyone with that blockchain technology can understand and just be naturally attracted to it. And that's why I was attracted to joining the team. So for me, I think that's why, whether you're attracting the end users of our platform eventually, I think we have a very solid business model that's easy to understand.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we want, our average moms, dads, to understand
yes.
what we're about. And I think that's
and also getting like developers on board, or even like just ordinary investors on board. It's really hard to understand technology, so people feel like intimidated by it. So that's one challenge that we should face as well and overcome it. So maybe education is also good. Country you should also take into consideration. These Koreans really like education.
So we have our demo out. You want to talk about our decentralized?
Sure. So, at Origin, we very much believe that we should constantly be shipping code and getting product out there. So we have a lot of stuff that we've launched to the Ethereum testnet thus far. But in a month's time, we'll launch our first version to the Ethereum mainnet. And so from there, we'll continue to launch features and iterate and hopefully make it better and better over time. But some of the key features of our V1 launch include how do you do decentralized identity? So we're helping push forward, along with over a dozen other projects, the ERC 725 identity standard. And so this is a way where users can have self-sovereign identity. They own their own identity data. It's portable amongst many different dApps. But it's also, in the nature of blockchain, right? It's like decentralized. So we're very actively working on that. We also learned through our testing that, wait a minute, buyers and sellers need to be able to communicate with them. There's not a great way to do that in the decentralized world today.
Yes.
So we ended up building our own decentralized messaging platform that allows any two users with an Ethereum wallet to be able to send decentralized, secure, and audible messages to each other.
Interesting.
And so this is our foray to allowing buyers and sellers to talk with one another without having to rely on traditional messaging like basic messaging or Kakao Talk or Telegram, for example. But this is such a powerful concept, just like the identity concept, that we think it's bigger than just what we're doing at Origin. And so all the work we're doing in both of these areas is, again, totally open source, and we're trying to package it up so that other applications can also leverage the work we're doing. Because then if you have a whole network of users on the decentralized web that can be identified, that can trust each other, that can communicate with each other, that can be used for a variety of applications, potentially social networking or potentially other types of transactions that are non-commercial in nature. But we think it's a very useful tool set, and we invite other developers to work on the same stuff that we're working on, contribute to it, and make the ecosystem better. And then apart from that, we are also obviously building features that allow for core marketplace functionality, having buyers and sellers send Ether or cryptocurrencies to each other in exchange for goods and services. What does that escrow process look like? How do we deal with dispute management, et cetera? So it's a ton of features that we're releasing in V1. And then in V2, there's going to be even more exciting stuff. Like we have a lot of interesting technology and product experiments going on.
You're building a whole infrastructure. That's why it's called Origin.
It ends up being a lot more work than we initially expected, because a lot of stuff that we require hasn't been built yet. So there's no one else to build it. We're looking around. It's like, okay, we just have to do it.
오리진이 한국말로 이제 근원이잖아요. 근원. So it's like 센터. 그러니까 정말 근본이 되는 거를 빌딩하는 거기 때문에 메시징 앱도 그렇지만은 이제 여러 필요한 것들을 하나하나씩 차근차근 쌓아가는 느낌이 드는 것 같아요. 그죠?
So I think what we're really good at is speaking for the users. user experience에서 이 메시지 어떻게 보면은 그 trust를 또 주는 거잖아요. Oh, I can talk to the seller. Oh, I have no idea where this person is, but I can talk, message this person, and therefore I have this comfort that my transaction will go through, right?
Yes.
So I think that trust the community can build on our platform. I think that's
되게 쉽게 접근하는 게 마음에 드는 것 같아요. 되게 이제 user experience, 그러니까 정말 사용자 입장에서 보니까 정말 인프라데벨op을 그렇게 하기 쉽지 않거든요. 다들 되게 어려운 랭귀지를 얘기를 하고, 그런데 이 팀은 되게 뭔가 심플하고, 되게 그게 마음에 저도 이해할 수 있게. You want me to understand it, and then I can ordinary user.
I think the most intelligent people know how.
Yes.
I think that's so important.
If you know what you're doing, then you really know how to simplify it to easy language, right? That's the end goal, I think. Awesome, that's great. So, what's in for you in Korea? When are you leaving, and just what are you, what have you done? What are you leaving? What are your immediate plans? If you have any projects coming up in Korea, can you just share?
I guess I'll 한국말로 하겠습니다.
한국말 하겠습니다.
그래서 저는 금요일날 저희가 첫 공식이나 테스트 라운드를 했었고요. 그때 많은 분들 와주셔서 너무 감사드리고, 저희가 이제 한국에 내 같은 경우는 내일 가고요. Tomorrow and Coleman and I are leaving the day after. 저희 커뮤니티 매니저 소영님께서는 이제 한국에 쭉 계시고요. 앞으로 저희 오리진에 대해서 궁금한 점 많이 있으시면 트림님께 해주시기 바랍니다. 네, 저희가 카톡이랑 텔레그램, 코리안 채널 만들었으니까요. 저희가 사실 이번에 한국에 와서 we really wanted to increase our users on our Korean channels platform. So
and developers.
텔레그램 방이 엄청 응대를 잘 해주더라고요.
아,
정말
저희가
너무 so nice.
reply.
So I was like, how do you do that? Like I've been doing that for like several months. It's so hard to follow up.
every 한국에 너무 중요해요.
진짜 어려워. And also you're coming back in November
For your middle conference.
for my middle
yeah.
conference, and Josh is gonna be a speaker in the conference, so it's gonna be very deep tech. Hopefully, it's gonna be very technical, and I'm looking forward to that as well. So I'll keep you posted on that, and yeah, so team will be here very periodically, and community manager will be here in Korea. So if you have any questions about the team, 질문 있으시면 항상 오픈돼 있으니까 알려주시면 될 것 같아요. 그죠? Right? Yeah. Yes.
We're definitely very, very open, and we love getting participation from the community. So, yeah, let us know if there's any questions or comments. We think that feedback and participation is going to be very, very core allowing us to move forward.
Yeah, awesome.
Sure.
Any final comments? How's the life? 어떤가요?
일단 I think 한국 사람인데 외국에 있는 한국 사람으로서 이렇게 한국 와서 이렇게 프레젠테이션을 하고 또 저희가 US-based 컴퍼니지만 we are a global company.
Yes.
We want to build a global community.
Yes.
So 되게 한국인으로서 되게 뜻깊은 것 같아요. 특별한 것 같고 I just want to make sure our message to the Korean community is sort of conveyed. The message is conveyed in the right way. We want to build a strong community where our core values are sort of strongly communicated.
Yes.
So we care about the quality, not quantity, right?
Yes.
So I think that we're brainstorming a lot on how to do that. We have a really amazing team. I mean, I'm fairly new to the team, but I've learned a ton. I'm super excited about Korea, but not just with Korea, other regions as well, like China and Europe as well. So looking forward to it. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. You changed from Korean to English. 이거 되더라고요. 한국말이 조금 어색해가지고 저도 어색한데 이제 아무래도 해외에 사시다 보니까 어색한 건 사실인 것 같고 어쩔 수 없는 것 같아요. 네, 그 영어 발표하다 보면은 왔다 갔다 하기 너무 힘들어. 그리고 이제 사실 한국 입장에서는 커뮤니티 입장에서는 해외에서 이제 베이스가 있지만 한국 관심을 보이는 팀들을 사실은 더 선호하기 마련이 더 이제 뭔가 familiar하게 느끼잖아요. 더 가까워지게 느끼고 그래서 그런 커미트먼트 보여주는 게 중요한 것 같은데 이 팀은 처음부터 이렇게 보여주니까 되게 좋은 것 같아요. 그래서 네, 많이 관심 부탁드리고 그리고 텔레그램 챗, 디벨로퍼 커뮤니티 이런 거 다 구축할 예정이니까, right? 그래서 이제 많이 관심 부탁드립니다. And Andy, we're drinking, this is just coffee, I think.
Yeah, it's a coffee.
It's cafe, cafe latte. And so we're having mukbang, it's sort of mukbang. You know mukbang?
I've heard of it.
It's a Korean term.
Yeah, but later we'll have the soju version.
Soju
next time.
in November, maybe we can. That's fun. I think that's very meaningful. So, yes, thank you for tuning in, and please share the video. I think it's a great interview. It's been a great chance to know the team, and so we've been able to connect pretty well. So I'm really excited for the future for your entire team. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, we're excited to do this again next time. Next time we'll have
with soju.
Yeah, soju, and even more on the technical development front. So I think we'll have a lot to share about our V1 launch and how that went, and some of the learnings and challenges and forward-looking plans we have with the product and technology. So
very exciting.
Look forward to the follow-up.
Yeah, I think following up is very important. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions for the team, who should we contact? Where should we contact the team?
네, 저희가 카톡 하는 분들, 한국말 더 편하신 분들은 저희 카카오톡 그룹 챗을 QR코드를 저희가 어떻게 드릴게요.
QR코드요?
또 저희 웹사이트 가시면은 인포메이션 저희 Origin Protocol Korea, 텔레그램 카카오톡
네, 알겠습니다. 감사합니다. Thank you for coming to the show. Thank you so much. Bye guys.
Bye.